Where do we stand? Michael Dell spent the weekend doing interviews with anyone that would have him. He reached out to Bloomberg, he reached out to the Wall Street Journal.
What did he say to us?
This is our last and final offer. That was one of the things he wanted to get across. He also wanted to complain about the voting procedures and say, listen, we're not really trying to change the procedures all that much. We're trying to make them more fair. We don't think the absentee voters should necessarily be counted as no's. All the things he said
Is he going to get that, by the way, from the committee?
I think the committee is still holding out for $14 a share. So they're holding out for more. You know, now they're saying this is our best and final, this is our last offer. There are ways to tweak the deal besides just the price. You could do something, you could set aside some, a stub for people. That's an option that's always been discussed. So I could see them tweaking the deal a little bit more.
Which uses shareholder cash fairest? Well, there's dead silence
because
an
uncomfortable
Jeff is an honest gentleman. Nobody really knows, do we?
No, we really don't know. I guess I try to get away from saying what's a good deal and what's a bad deal. It always puts me in a bad spot with people.
Fair. But where's the use of cash on this deal?
I think it seems like Michael's trying to use the cash in a way that's protecting the shareholder a bit more, or protecting the company a bit more. I mean, at least that's his argument, that he's not going to use as much cash because he's going to set aside some so that they can shrink or they can grow in the areas they need to grow.
Well, it is a true merger Monday in that we have this humongous deal in the advertising business, Omnicom and Publicis. This is something that your team, Jeff, has been all over for several months. Tell us the backstory.
Right. It's funny. For about 2 weeks, we had been chasing that something was going on with Publicis, and then finally on Friday we got the breakthrough, and we were able to get it out there around 5 or 6 o'clock on Friday.
But what was it about these two that you thought would be a merger and such a consolidated industry?
One of the things you look for in M&A is you look for a CEO who wants to cap his career, or a CEO who's north of 65, maybe even north of 70 in this case, and is looking for someone else who could come in and take over the company.
You found that in Mr. Levy?
Yes, exactly. He's 71 years old, I believe, and then he's merging with someone who's 61 years old, who is a 61-year-old CEO. So that's one of the things you sometimes keep an eye out for.
When you talk to different people in the industry, though, they were surprised. For instance, Sir Martin Sorrell flat out said that this was unexpected. What were some of the reactions?
Yeah, I would say surprise might be a nice way of putting it. When our story went out Friday, I would say, for the next 12 hours, all I read were negative stories from Advertising Age and other places saying, no way this could happen.
Well, yeah, an Advertising Age, I thought had great coverages. Let's look at this quote here from, I believe it's David Jones, late of the Monkees. No, I'm kidding. From Havas, I believe it's pronounced. Digital and technology have made scale irrelevant. That's not a good thing for Omnicom or Publicis, but it is for their competitors. And Paul Sweeney with us from Bloomberg Industries. As I said to Sir Martin, this is a huge win for the rest of the industry, isn't it?
I think so. I think one of the risks when you see these mergers take place in the advertising business is the loss of clients. And you see some of the competitors coming into the clients and say, listen, you are not going to get the focus. There might even be some client overlap. So in this particular case, the most notable one is Coke and Pepsi. Huge. Now, how can Coke and Pepsi live within the same holding company is what the competitors are going to say.
Conflict of interest.
Conflicts of interest. So oftentimes, the two risks, I think, when you see these mergers take place in the advertising business is talent. How do you retain your best talent? And number two, client overlap. How do you retain your best clients?